When we sacrifice what's right for us, it's going to cause us to feel miserable, hopeless.
Why is it so hard to love ourselves sometimes?
We need to be taught how to love ourselves. The real tangible teaching of what is self-love? Well, self-love is self-care. Self-love is kind words. If there's not those formative teachings, well, what are we learning in our environment? The fundamental teaching in all world religions is love. And somewhere along the way, we're taught to ascribe to what others say or what others think. And we lose sight of that inner GPS, that guidance system. And the first step is becoming even more honest and truthful with yourself. And we're probably about 80% honest as what we could be, knowing that I'm making this decision that's going to be good for me. It doesn't mean I'm selfish. It means I'm self-honoring. You may not be able to honor yourself in an environment where that isn't the culture. If we don't have them taught to us, it's up to us to learn them. Because when we do that, we show up better for others and the world.
It almost feels like to experience happiness, you shouldn't.
Welcome to Light Within. We are so excited you're here.
But before we dive in, we'd love to ask you for a quick favor. We're a brand new podcast, and your hitting subscribe would mean the world to us. So please take a moment to hit subscribe, like, comments, and help our team bring this amazing content to you every single week. Thank you. And now back to the episode. Dorothy, so good to see you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this. This is great.
I'm so excited about today's conversation with you because I've been listening to your content for years. Your meditations, your wisdom tracks. You just pour so much love into each track that you put out, and you help people truly discover who they are and see the world from a completely new perspectives. Dorothy, I think what makes you so unique is that you're a clinical psychotherapist, but you also bring in wisdom from Christianity, Eastern philosophies, even physics and biology, and you create this incredibly integrated view of people and who they are and how they can thrive in this world. How would you describe really the foundation of your teachings and your philosophy?
I feel like it's all about following your inner wisdom in your heart. Through my studies, I've actually studied all of the world religions. And to me, it was about coming back to being open, to listening, to meditation daily, to just honoring what truth came up for me. The fundamental teaching in all world religions is love. That's the commonality. And so that felt also very natural and prophetic when I began to really speak to that in my work with clients. And you know, what's beautiful is that we are also open to that philosophy of love and kindness because it feels good. It works. It creates beautiful harmony in our relationships, and it adds to the quality of our life. It allows us to feel self-love and self-governance in a very positive way. It provides us with this incredible amount of power. I mean, our true power is love. And it also is what allows us to thrive because we make choices and decisions that come from a place of honoring ourselves and others.
I think we could just end the podcast here. I want to take a step back and ask you about how you became who you are today. What's so much wisdom, so much understanding of this world? What led you to this point?
So I think about all of the parts and the experiences that, have guided me to where I am. And I think back to how many of those moments there are where you're constantly choosing. And one of the things that I discovered quite beautifully, quite innately, was this ability to let my heart guide what I was doing, let my heart guide my decision making. So one small example on my trajectory of life up to this point, you choose in your first year university, you choose a number of different courses, and you choose some thinking you're going to really like this, and you choose some because I want to get to know more about that subject or that, area of life. And ultimately, those 5 or 6 courses at first year university, some of them you're going to love and some not so much. It's important that we make choices based on what we think or hope or believe we will like, but then looking and feeling through that to know, okay, and to be honest with ourselves. I know I don't want to continue in economics or accounting. And that's okay. Those are great fields. But I knew from first year psychology, I'm like, that was interesting to me. That was exciting to me. And I couldn't get enough of that. So it's about making choices, but then being really honest and following your heart, following your instinct, following your inherent knowing of what is right for you. And we have so many of those choices each and every day that we live, like you're on a health program. So are you going to make this choice or this choice? You want to eat better. So are you going to make this choice or this choice? And then of course there's those bigger life choices, right? That, I mean, you're quite aware of the choices that brought you to this profession and being a CEO and all that you're doing from here. It's about listening to your inner wisdom. And one of the things, again, that I spend a lot of time in my work with clients is helping them to get back on their path, because somewhere along the way, they were listening too much to what others said or others thought they should do or what they thought they should do rather than what they really wanted to do and what was really a passion or an interest. If we can all come back to living more from that heart space, that sense of knowing, that inner wisdom, and you'll hear that in my tracks too, that learning about and how to cultivate that connection with your inner wisdom, then it's like your answers for everything are like this, because that knowing is practiced. What do I want to eat for dinner? What do I feel like eating for dinner? What should I do now? What work do I need to do now? And that becomes a guiding path for living your life in a really productive way, because now your choices and your decisions are aligned with what's important. And maybe it's a bigger life purpose or goal, and you're on that trajectory.
How did you learn about the importance of following your heart at such a young age?
I would spend a lot of time as a child on my own, doing things, simple things that I enjoyed. And I think there's that element to that of being comfortable in your own company. And that, especially as children, because as children, we're also very attuned with nature and our environment and our inner voice. And so when you're spending time with yourself and you're being attentive and you're listening and you're connected to nature, trees, and what you're doing, and you're hearing the noise of your family downstairs or whatever, you learn how to listen. You learn how to hear that inner voice. You learn that it's there. You learn how you're never alone. You learn how important and instructive that it's also a feeling, but that voice, however you hear it, whether it's auditory or you sense it, a lot of times we hear it, or we just have this sense of knowing, like we know this is the right answer, or we know that's not the right answer. As you practice that, and children do it instinctively, it's like this muscle that you keep building that gets stronger. And then it's about, of course, honoring that, because I have clients that they say, I knew I should have done that. And I say, well, that's good. You knew that. And then it's about, how do you honor yourself in every single decision? And sometimes, Stephen, of course, that means you don't know what the outcome is going to be. Like when you made this huge decision to start this company, I'm sure you and Daniel didn't know what the greater outcome was going to be, or even the potential, but you probably felt a calling, a desire, a strong desire, and this sense that I can't not do this. And sometimes it doesn't matter if we have a reason of why. It's just, I have to do this. Does that feel like for you what happened as well?
I actually wanted to be a doctor most of my life, just following the path of both my parents and my grandmother. I was studying biology at UC Berkeley, and I really enjoyed sciences in general. But I knew also that my calling wasn't to just be a doctor. It was really to change the culture and the way people approach health in general. So that led me to studying healthcare entrepreneurship at UCSF in Berkeley for 1 year. And I got really exposed to this idea of innovation and how technology can help improve people's lives. And coincidentally, my brother, who was in college at the time, had a similar thought. He was studying biology, but wanted to start a company. We just found this out at a family vacation. We were just talking and realized that we happened to have kind of the similar vision. And we thought, maybe this is something we pursue. So one day I was actually driving from San Francisco all the way to LA by myself. And the whole 6-hour ride, I didn't play any music. I didn't listen to anything. I was in silence and I was just talking to God, listening to God. And during that moment, it became really clear that this is the path I needed to pursue. With that said, I didn't know how to build a company from ground up. I didn't have much resources. I sometimes think if I knew what I know today about the difficulty of starting a company, especially when you don't have resources, I don't know if I would have done it. But I think I knew and I heard that calling to just follow my heart, and I ended up pursuing that. With that said, I think after making that decision, I've completely, and to my regret, I think stopped listening to God or my heart. And I think that made it really difficult. I forgot the why behind I was doing what I was doing at Aura. And I was trying to hit metrics. I was trying to attract investors. I was trying to, of course, help a lot of people, but also, in some ways, I think look good to other people as well. And it took many, many years to kind of undo all that learning. And just like you described, like almost feel like a kid again, start listening to my instinct and my heart more and less trying to be strong. I still try to be confident, but less trying to be strong on my own and really just obeying what God and the nature has in store for me.
That's wonderful advice to be giving entrepreneurs, right? Because there's so much you have to learn and do and know in running a company and starting a company.
And as you're talking about your philosophy really based on love, it really resonated with me because I believe love is the foundation of even everything you do in business. It's really the love for customers, it's love for your team. I think if there was one word to describe how I strive to be, I think it is love. And I think love is hard because it's a confusing word in some sense. It's easy to mistake love for being nice. And sometimes you don't want to share feedback to others because you don't want to hurt them. But if you truly love them, you want to help them grow. And so the word love and the concept of love has so much to it. I'd love to learn more about how you think about love and how you got to the conclusion that you want to put love at the center of your teachings.
It's so important. And I love hearing what you said about how you strive and aim to be that, embody that for yourself. I remember this idea that came to me, and that's how these beautiful, whether you say God-given or your inner wisdom inspired ideas of just being love. And the idea just came to me like, that's the journey. That's the practice, is just being love. When you talk about making your team better, I feel like there's another word we can pair with love, and that is kindness. Loving kindness, and we know about that. I mean, I'm sure there's so many loving kindness meditations here in Aura for others to listen to. And it's about honoring yourself and others with love and kindness. So the actions of kindness are how we teach love. The actions of kindness are what we portray. The actions of kindness become a philosophy that we can, run our companies by, we can live our life by. And the interesting thing is it's like this beautiful ripple effect, I'm sure you see it with your teams, when you're loving and kind, and still you have a goal, you have the means to which you're going to get there, but you're doing it in such a way that holds so much high value, high morals, high honor. Then it's like the living proof of your actions of loving kindness. That in and of itself is the teaching. Like people will, as you know, they will hear what you say, but they're going to watch, they're going to follow, they're going to listen to your words. They're going to see that you're walking the talk essentially. And if more people in the world are living as loving kindness and truly modeling that, it becomes this new way of being that's so natural, because it is so natural.
And from your work with clients, what are the most common kind of mistakes that people make or challenges that people face when they try to adopt this philosophy of living with love?
For example, someone is really unhappy in their workplace and maybe they're feeling mistreated by their boss, or they're not given, the promotion that they felt like they deserved. Sometimes the path of loving kindness is also recognizing this is not an environment or a space that I really feel good in. I don't feel like I can really thrive in, or I can be myself in. And sometimes there are those real roadblocks. I mean, I work a lot with companies too. And you see that in the culture. And there could just be one person or two people that it just creates such a negative environment for so many. And so when I'm working with clients, their mandate to live happy and to be authentic to themselves may mean leaving that job or making a career change, even in some cases. I remember a client who was an accountant making a great living. Really, what he wanted to do was not accountant, not be an accountant. He wanted to buy old homes and restore them, restore the wood and like make them beautiful and then sell them. And as much as that was a real inner conflict for him, as much as he got resistance from his wife and his family, he ended up doing that. He ended up following his heart, and he loved every moment of what he did. And it ended up making him a wonderful living, of course. But it's about sometimes our loving kindness and our loving approach needs to be in new ground. It needs to be in a new culture. It needs to be on our own path. That could be changing jobs, like I said. It could be doing something completely different. I think the message is to honor yourself, right? And you may not be able to honor yourself in an environment where that isn't the culture. And so you just have to recognize that, right? And honor yourself enough, love yourself enough. And that's the key to make that change for yourself for the better.
Why is it so hard to love ourselves sometimes? Sometimes I'm just so ashamed of how I show up or what I just did. And what would be your advice to people who are like me?
That is a wonderful question. And when you think about it, most of us have had these childhoods where we were loved, we were adored, right? Like children are most of the time intrinsically loved so much. But two things happen. One is we need to be taught how to love ourselves. And so all this love that's poured onto a newborn baby and then a 2-year-old and then someone that's learning to speak and walk and all that, there's got to be a point in our lives as humans where we teach the messaging of how to love yourself and what that looks like. And so if you have parents that are struggling with their own relationship difficulties, or you have a situation in your environment where maybe you've had to immigrate or move, or life's changed a lot for you, if there's not the teaching, like the real tangible teaching of what is self-love? Well, self-love is self-care. Self-love is kind words. Self-love is encouraging yourself. Self-love is forgiveness, because we're all human. And so if there's not those formative teachings, and maybe in some cases we haven't had that adoring love that most children, I hope, have had, then it becomes a sense of, well, what are we learning in our environment? Are we learning self-effacing words? Are we learning self-criticism? Are we learning to always strive and that's never good enough, whatever we do? And so another part of our journey needs to be, okay, at some point in our young adulthood, it's like recognizing, what do we need to give to ourselves? No fault of our parents. We're not pointing fingers. We're just saying, what do we need to give to ourselves that maybe was missed? Maybe we needed more of, maybe we needed to feel in bigger ways. And how can we give that to ourselves? It seems like a very elusive construct in some ways when we say self-love, because in a way it is, because where are those formative, practical, tangible teachings? Well, if we don't have them taught to us, it's up to us to learn them. And I think that's why I just love so much when I hear from the listeners on Aura that the self-love content has been so helpful for them, because in an environment where maybe you didn't have the ability to learn or to see what self-love was, you can teach it to yourself. And that's another big takeaway for clients that I see. It's like, here are the tools. There are tools and ways to teach and learn self-love that you are going to love, you are going to appreciate, you're going to thrive in.
I think what you just said is really, really interesting because, as you were speaking, I was like, oh, wait, I did learn to love others and to love myself when I was younger. But I think as I was growing up, I forgot the importance of that almost. I think sometimes you don't do as well, or your work is not going well, or your relationships are not going well. And you actually forget to continue loving yourself despite that. I think that could go in this negative spiral of getting farther and further from loving yourself, and therefore further and further from yourself as well.
Think about that. Think about exactly what you said. If in those difficult moments, in those challenging moments, maybe we failed a test, maybe we got fired from a job, in those really difficult moments, those are the moments where we need to practice the greatest self-love, the greatest self-kindness, the greatest self-reverence. You are an incredible being as you are. You're going to hopefully continue on your trajectory of growth
Yeah.
and learning and evolution and becoming better. But love all of who you are, because all of those hardships and challenges and difficulties, and maybe the lack of focus sometimes, especially with growing up in an environment where maybe the focus was exceeding or excelling in the world and not so much on loving yourself. In those difficult moments we have in life, if we can learn to lean into greater love, greater care, greater self-acceptance. And then, of course, from that, from feeling better because of that, we can then turn around and say, okay, now what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to accomplish this because I've got my confidence back, or I feel even better, or I feel stronger, or this was difficult, but I got through it. And I'm really a great person. I'm really a amazing person. I've got a lot to live for. I've got a lot to show the world. Those are the places you get to when you consistently fill the tank, fill yourself honestly, authentically. You're not talking about ego. This is about just loving who you are. And again, I come back to that, seeing yourself honestly, because that honesty is going to give you the real focus for what you need to then become better at. And that's also going to contribute to your confidence and your worth, for sure.
I think you just brought up such an important point, and I am totally blanking. You mentioned the importance of self-love even in your challenges.
If we can master what's really a practice of being kind and loving to yourself.
Yeah.
And remember, think about what we're taught, right? We're taught, you're feeling down, call a friend. Nothing wrong with that. But feeling down, maybe looking for love or acceptance or approval elsewhere. I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm saying if you could practice looking within, giving that to yourself first, then you wouldn't be ever feeling like you weren't enough, because you'd always be able to be there for yourself. And also, when you learn how to rely on yourself for feeling loved, for feeling worthy, for feeling good enough. And there's many cognitive behavioral therapy tools and exercises we can do that help us. And there's a ton, of course, on Aura. The more we can practice what will help us feel whole, there's the word, feel whole and complete as we are. And a big part of getting to that is honoring and loving self. It's like you don't maybe want to be an island unto yourself, but maybe you do, because if you're an island unto yourself, Stephen, then you can pick yourself up. You can say, you know what? I love you. You're amazing. Keep going, or we're going to fix this, or you're going to get better at this, or that's okay. The more we can be our own cheerleader, the more we can practice the knowing that we are whole and complete no matter what happens. I feel like that is in itself a huge life teaching and a success.
What would be some of the tools or practices that you recommend to really develop that daily practice of loving yourself?
For me and for what I teach my clients, there's a big benefit to using affirmations. Affirmations, but with the feeling. Like if you say to yourself, I love you, I want you to feel that. I want you to really take a moment and feel that love. And for some people, it is work. It's the first part of our work and therapy and coaching to just help them learn how to open their heart, because they've had to close their heart because maybe they've had years of not so nice environments or, abuse or trauma. So opening your heart, that is feeling safe. That's key. Feeling safe enough to be able to let your guard down with yourself, alone with yourself, and to say, for example, I love you, I care about you, and to really take in that love. For some, that's a journey unto themselves. Like with some clients who've experienced a lot of trauma, that can be a huge first step to healing, is just that ability to feel safe and secure and able to open their heart so that they can feel the love that they are wanting to feel for themselves. So affirmations, I would say there's a sense of, oh, this is good. There's a sense of knowing you're a good person that makes you feel good about yourself, that can't beat anything. And knowing you're a good person, I always say, can you put your head down on your pillow at night and feel good about your whole day? I mean, that's kind of a big quest for some of us. Maybe we weren't exactly kind in all moments. Well, there's something to work on for tomorrow. More you like and appreciate and love who you are, because of the person you are, well, then it's like it becomes easy to love yourself. It becomes easy to forgive yourself. So those two things, I mean, being honorable, being a good person, liking who you are,
Mm,
affirmations help that you really feel, that you really own, because they will work if you feel them and you believe them. I feel like it's a third thing is like striving in a good way to be more.
mm,
And I don't mean I don't mean more ever from a place of ego, but more as in more kind, better in a way that makes you feel better about yourself. Maybe you want to learn something, go learn that so you feel better about yourself. So it's ways that you can evolve and transform that are going to also support how you feel about yourself.
I'd love to dive into your view of spirituality. I know it's a big portion of your teaching. I know also that not every psychotherapist brings in spirituality, but it is such a critical kind of part of who we are as human beings. How do you think about spirituality and how do you encourage that in others?
You know, in coaching and therapy, there may be people that come in for a very specific reason. Like maybe I want to alleviate anxiety, or maybe I want to overcome a breakup in a relationship. And so when that work is done, maybe they're feeling better, stronger, healthier mentally, physically, that they want to do something more. Maybe they want to change jobs because they really aren't happy with where they are. Maybe they want to get a promotion because they love where they are and they want to excel. So maybe we work on something else together. When someone is willing to embrace all of who they are, whatever that means, typically it invariably means that part of them that is non-physical, that
Mm,
part of them is like the explanation for, well, what is that inner voice? What is that inner wisdom? What is that? Like,
mm,
how is that a part of me that I'm never alone? Like, what is that? Or for my case, how I came to spirituality was asking these questions. What am I here to do?
mm,
What's the meaning of life? What's my purpose? What is God? What is the universe? Like, I remember having those questions come to my mind and writing and journaling and seeking answers for myself. Because for me, it's like if I had answers for myself that made sense for me, then I could help others find their answers. I'm never going to tell somebody what they should believe,
yeah.
but I'm going to say, here are the questions to ask yourself.
Mm,
And here's how to get really clear and clear in your mind and clear in your heart so that those answers will come up easier for you. I remember this client, she was struggling with this really big decision around her relationship. It was about leaving. And she was so torn and she did all the, pros and cons lists and all the analytical things you would do to make a decision. And I showed her, I said, put your hand on your heart center and I want you to feel what you feel. And I walked her through some questions, some easier questions that would elicit for her an answer pretty easily. And then we got to the big question of, should I be in this relationship? What is the right answer? And Stephen, tears were rolling down her face. And she said nothing. And she
mm,
just continued to be quiet and have her hand on her chest. And then when she finally opened up her eyes, she said, I know what to do.
mm,
Spirituality is all of that. Spirituality is seeing something outside that is so beautiful, and yet it's so simple. It could be a bird flying, and you appreciate it.
mm,
And that's for you a moment of connecting with, in that moment, everything in the universe, perhaps, or just that bird. Spirituality is kindness.
mm.
Spirituality is love. Spirituality is recognizing that you're not alone in this world. And that's important. However, people may come to spirituality, and I love that there's so many ways to do that. They begin to feel that they can be bigger than who they are.
Yeah.
Their energy, their essence can be far beyond, far expanding beyond who they are as a person. And also they have the capacity to love far beyond what they thought they could.
I don't think I've ever heard a better explanation of spirituality. And I think the story you shared is so powerful because it helps us realize a lot of times the universe is trying to tell you something, but your heart is closed off or you're just not listening. And once you start loving yourself and open up your heart and give yourself that space to listen, profound answers just come out and it can change your life overnight. I know you speak a lot about integrity and high morals. These are two concepts that are, again, so obvious, but so hard to actually embody. What is your view on integrity and how would you advise people to start embodying that fully?
I feel like there's a time, I know that there's a time in our early development, usually it's our teenage years, and then it's into our early 20s, where we question all the things that maybe we were taught in our family of origin. Maybe we are used to certain ways of being because we've seen that, we've been socialized to that. And this notion of integrity is about asking yourself the questions, is this right? Is this the way in which I want to show up if I was living, here it is, as my highest self? And to me, we just spoke about spirituality. If your highest self is this non-physical part of you that is all loving, all beautiful, all perfect, always does the right thing, then there's your honing device. It's like, am I showing up as my highest self? I feel like that's a great question also because there's so many aspects of living in this physical world that can make it challenging for us, whatever the situations are that we're living in. But integrity is about, how do I honor who I am? How do I show that? How do I live that? And then it's also about the kind of relationships I want to cultivate. It's really difficult. I mean, I get referrals from my colleagues who are criminal lawyers, and it's really difficult when you've got a client that is so used to thinking about things a certain way, and they've created these rationalizations, these narratives that say, well, it's okay to do that because this happened or that this person did this to me. Integrity to me is about, it doesn't matter what's been done to us or what we've grown up seeing or what we thought was okay because, one of our parents made it okay. Integrity is about, strip all that away. Let's look at this from, what is my highest self? And again, if you're connected with that inner wisdom, like that client that could just put her hand on her heart center after a while and just listen for her answers. If you're connected to that, then you'll always, if not from your own ethics, from within, you'll always get the right answer in terms of integrity and what do you need to do. And what you need to do may not always be the easy thing, but it's still the right thing.
I think it's so easy to think that when you think about integrity, it's all about other people. I think what you're also saying here is that by embodying integrity, you're actually reaching the best part of you. And that in itself, in addition to the impact on other people, is really powerful. And even from a selfish reason, like, you should embody integrity because you want to become that best self, that high self, as you talk about.
There's a really important word that you use that I want to just spell out for people. This idea of what is selfish has really held for us this perception that we can't choose what's right for us. I'm really liking that you use that word because it gives me a chance to just remind people that be selfish, the true definition of that is when you make a decision or a choice that puts yourself in front of another person, and that in doing so, you're harming another person. And I know that so many of us don't make those decisions. We're not choosing to harm another person. So if we can think about selfish in that way and recognize that we're never wanting to harm another person, that's not at all what we want to do, then it frees us to make these decisions that are right for us, that empower us, knowing that I'm making this decision that's going to be good for me, that I need to make for me. It doesn't mean I'm selfish. It doesn't mean that I'm self-serving. It means I'm self-honoring. And I think that's really important that we re-examine, how we think about that word. You're right when you say, I'll use the word self-serving. It's about honoring and serving us, because when we do that, we show up better for others and the world. And we become these layperson teachers of how to be kind, how to be loving, how to be assertive, how to be gentle, how to be honorable for others. So I look at it like it's self-informative, it's self-governing, it's self-honoring to choose always what's right for you. And I know sometimes we'll make choices that are a compromise, or we'll make choices knowingly that, this is not right for me, but I know you want me to go there with you and do that, and I'll go with you. But as long as we're honoring, okay, I'm making this choice, I know it's not the right choice for me. As long as we're honoring that and it's not a habit, it's really important for all the other times that we can to do what's right for us, because ultimately that's going to make you feel the best in that moment and also about yourself.
I think reframing, selfishness to self-honoring completely changes the way you see yourself. And I think it makes it so much easier to love yourself, because you're not being selfish by doing that. You're honoring yourself so that you can show up even better for others. I'm also curious to hear about your perspective on happiness. We all know that happiness is fleeting. Would you recommend your clients to, let's say, pursue happiness or find things that make you happy? Or is that something that you recommend people not to strive for?
There was a time a while back, I was seeing a lot of unhappy clients and clients that were presenting with anxiety and panic attacks and physical ailments due to stress. And as we dove deeper into what was the root cause, for a lot of them, it was this living inauthentic in some part of their life. For the accountant, it was in his career. For others, it was living in a relationship that wasn't right and they were afraid to leave. When we look at the ways in which we can show up that honor ourselves, when we look at the ways that we can do the things for ourselves that truly make us happy, we come to know that happiness is actually, I call it authentic happiness because it's innate. It's like we have this enormous innate capacity to be happy. And I say to clients, what we do is we almost like a cloak, we cover that because of the thoughts we tell ourselves. Well, I can't do this, or this isn't working, or whatever the thoughts are that cause us to feel a lack of happiness. When really, if we're following that life path that you and I talked about, where we're really authentic, we're honoring ourselves and we're making choices consistently, small choices, large choices that are right for us, happiness is easy. Happiness is naturally a part of it all because when you're making choices that honor you, you're going to feel happy. Imagine if I wish we all could wake up every morning and do all the things we love, the things we desire, the things we want to do. I want to work out now. I want to have a coffee break now. I want to do some work now and follow that. Wouldn't it be a life where you would truly feel happy? So I teach clients and even clients that are on, have the support of their physician and they're on medication for depression. I teach clients, your thoughts are largely going to be the reason why you're feeling happy or not. But also, the more aligned you are with authenticity and your word earlier, integrity, the more you're true to yourself, the more you're honest with yourself, the easier it is for you to fix the unhappiness. Because part of the unhappiness and the anxiety and all the symptoms we experience come out of not doing what we really want to do, not following our heart, not making the choices that are going to be aligned with what's right for us. When we sacrifice what's right for us, it's going to cause us to feel unhappy, disconnected, miserable. Happiness is a choice, but also there are so many tools to remind us that in every moment we can choose. We can choose happiness. We can choose our authenticity, which will innately allow us to feel our authentic happiness. And of course, being loved naturally is going to, and feeling grateful are naturally going to, be the direct path to happiness as well.
It almost feels like to experience happiness, you shouldn't chase after it. It's about just making simple decisions to honor yourself and to just be in tune with who you are, and the happiness just naturally follows. Whereas if you're chasing after happiness, you might actually never find it.
You can start looking inward for your happiness and realizing, you know what, that sandwich is really good. Or that walk in the park on my lunch break was really good.
Yeah.
Or, oh my gosh, look at that bird again, or the tree with snow. There can be simple things that you can appreciate, which is a part of gratitude, but also the idea of enjoying and appreciating and being present to the moments of your life that happiness is right there.
What has been your biggest challenge for you personally in loving yourself and living the way that you want to?
The more I practice, the greater the self-like, the self-love is. And so, it's been something that because I've intentionally been doing for a long time, it feels like it's with me. It feels like it's a part of me. And that I hope is inspiring for people, to also hear and know that when you practice, it doesn't become hard. In fact, if you're going less outside of yourself, looking for love and proof and validation, and you're looking more to yourself for those things, the better you get at giving that to yourself, the more self-love you feel and live and own. And then again, it's like a practice. If you're doing this every day, like not only do you feel better, you feel fulfilled. You feel like your trajectory is the right one. It's been years of practice and it's been wonderful. I want people to know that it's a wonderful practice.
So encouraging to hear that at first this might be really hard because you haven't been living this way, but it just gets easier and easier and becomes a part of you. Therefore, maybe it even no longer feels like you're trying. It just becomes a kind of just the way you live. And what are your thoughts on financial stress? I know that could be a huge stressor that, truly prevents people from acting and living the way they want. And I think this goes for both people who are very successful, but they just continue wanting more and more, as well as for people who genuinely have a need. And yeah, just curious what your perspective on financial stress is.
Here's how I see it, and here's what, I consistently shows up in my practice with clients. I can be working with someone who's, as you mentioned, monetarily successful and maybe achieved a lot. And by all things on paper, they should be just so happy and, feeling great. And they're not. And it comes back to something we haven't talked about, which I'm so glad that you brought us to, is this sense of self and this core of who am I? And there are many different ways that we can come to be successful on paper or what society says successful is. And certainly some of those I think are ways that are honorable and good. And yet you have to own it. You have to know within yourself what it is that makes you successful. And so some of the homework I'll give clients to help them with this is, how do you define success? How do you define for you being a good person? Who are you? And defining the qualities and characteristics that best represent how you would describe yourself to yourself. Because if you have a poor sense of self, if you don't know yourself well, if you are struggling again with that notion we talked about being authentic and being true to yourself, then on the outside, we can portray this wonderful sense as to who we are. But inside, we could be struggling deeply because maybe we want to just play or teach guitar. Maybe we want to just move to a foreign country and learn a new language. Maybe the things we've been working on so diligently haven't really fed our soul. So that idea of being truthful and honest and honoring yourself is important, but also we're talking about self-esteem and self-worth and sense of self. Sense of self is how well you know yourself. And that comes with being present. It comes with processing the day and processing what happened and learning from the day and your mistakes and your successes and striving and wanting to be more. It's about also liking and loving who you are. It's about, for a lot of people, it's about redefining what success really means to them. And inherently, all of us, whether we name it or not, we want to feel loved. We want to feel appreciated. We want to contribute. I say to people who are looking for what their greater purpose in the world and life is, it's always something that ties back to being of service. And so giving of yourself and creating something that's going to help others and doing for others in a way that allows you to feel your life to be meaningful and full. So when I think about the people that on the outside seemed very successful, and they were struggling. I mean, I had one client who was so wealthy and still believed he didn't have enough money. He was so worried and concerned because he just needed to make more and more. It became evident, after our work together that he really felt a lack of love. He really felt a lack of sense of self and worth. And so those fundamental constructs, it doesn't matter how young or old you are, you have to be working on them. You have to be doing the things that are going to build those for yourself.
Sometimes what you think are financial problems might really not be financial problems at all. It's just maybe people have been focusing on the wrong things or chasing after things to find that love from elsewhere.
Love, yes, or the sense of success that you think you want or that you're looking for, when really you want to be validated, you want to be needed, you want to be, connected to something or someone. It's that fundamental sense of being needed and loved and cared for and being important to someone, important to yourself, and feeling like you have a purpose in this world.
What would you recommend as a primary motivator for people to push themselves and to be the best that they can be?
if you're pushing yourself, if you are striving for more, and you're doing that because you feel this deep calling, this wonderful, deep desire that you need to do this work, whatever that might be, then I feel like that is really important and you have to listen to that. So there's going to be a time where you back off and you maybe work less, but maybe there's real sense within you that this is important and you have to do this. And we are all on finite time. So I feel like it's being able to recognize, is this ego driven or is this from my heart? Is this feeling like this is so important that I must do it? And it's important that I do it now and I pay attention to it. Those are what make our 12 and 14 and 15-hour days not feel so much like work, but more of a real calling, a real vocation to what is important to us.
Anything else you'd like to share with our listeners today?
I hope that whomever is listening, that wherever you are, that you believe that it's possible for whatever it is you want to do and to fix and to change and to achieve, believe that it's possible. There are so many people that don't know how to take the first few steps, or maybe they've taken some steps and those steps haven't been the right totally or worked out totally. There are ways to know what the right steps are, and there are ways to get the right help. And I do hope that people believe that what they want, what's important to them, is absolutely within their reach.
If there's one thing about this talk that you'd like to just share again for the listeners, what would that be?
Lead with your heart, trust in the unknown, especially if it is heart driven, because it'll always take you to the right place.
First of all, I will be truly embodying everything you've taught me today. I want to commit to living a life full of love, integrity, and self-honoring, and in turn, experiencing happiness and being the best I can be to others. Thank you so much, Dorothy.
Amazing. You're so welcome. I love you. Thank you so much.
Love you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been great.
Thank you so much for watching. Hope that resonated with you.
If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and leave your thoughts and comments.
Your support means the world to us and helps us bring these conversations to you for free. We read every single comment and we would love to connect with you there. So go subscribe. Until next time, love yourself, be kind to yourself, and remember, your light is always within you.